DEBx, amplifying voices, accelerating change.
Please help me welcome to the DEBx stage, Butch Leiber.
You may have heard the story of a mother teaching her daughter how to make a pot roast. She said, take it out of the wrapper, you cut off the ends, put it in the pan, and then put it in the oven to bake. Her daughter thinks for a minute and says, why do you cut the ends off the roast? And her mother replied, that's how my mother taught me to do it. So the little girl gets on the phone and calls her grandmother, and she asked her grandmother, why do you cut the ends off the roast before you cook it? And she says, that's how my mother taught me to do it. So then she calls her great-grandmother, who elucidated the situation, shed some light on the mystery. She said, when I was a little girl, we had one roasting pan, and it was really small. So we had to cut the ends off the meat to make it fit. Now, if that little girl hadn't stopped to question the rules, who knows how many generations of her family might be missing the best part of the meat, right? Now, if that tradition got passed down for more generations, it wouldn't do a lot of harm. But what about the other rules that we have that have been passed down, bestowed upon us, that we don't stop to question? And we follow them blindly because, well, we're just blind to them. I say we all live by a set of mostly invisible rules that we didn't create, we didn't agree to, and we're often blind to the limits they put on our lives. We have rules for everything. We have rules for how things should be done. We have rules for how life should be, how life should go. And we don't question our rules. It's just how life is. Of course, how life is for me may not be how life is for you, or the person sitting next to you, or the person sitting next to them. And our rules allow us to move easily through life until they don't. Daniel Kahneman, who studied how human beings think and make decisions, he said we can be blind to the obvious, and then we're blind to our blindness. So we're so blind to the limitations that our invisible rules have, and it limits our ability to make choices in life. And it ends up getting in the way of us having and achieving what's really important to us. It's as if our mostly invisible rules build a wall that feels very real. And we're standing here, and everything we want, our hopes, our dreams, our goals are on the other side of that wall, and we have no way to get to them. I can relate. I have a pretty good life. I grew up in Philadelphia, had a great childhood. I was a rule follower. My parents told me how I should live. They said I should be a professional, be a doctor, be a dentist, be a lawyer. They said I should marry a nice Jewish girl, give them nice Jewish grandchildren. You get the point, right? So they told me how I was supposed to live, and I believed them. And their rules became my rules. Do the right thing, follow the rules, honor your parents, don't be weird. So, right? Don't embarrass them, right? So when I graduated from college, I actually went to medical school. I didn't want to be a doctor, and I hated medical school. My mother wanted me to be a doctor, and I had to follow the rules, so I went. Didn't work out so well. I dropped out after the first year. Then I got married to a lovely woman, knowing full well, right, here's the punchline, knowing full well that I was gay. But I had rules to follow. That also didn't work out so well. That marriage lasted about 13 months. So then my dad needed help with his business. Follow the rules, honor your parents. So I went to work for my father, which was such a miserable experience that I picked up and I moved 2,000 miles away from my family to Phoenix just to get away from the rules, right? So subconsciously, I kept trying to escape my rules, but they continued to follow me. I had no freedom to make choices in my life because I was playing by some odd set of rules. But I was living, but it wasn't my life. And I felt trapped and just unhappy and frustrated and sad. So you might remember the movie Beetlejuice. It's a cute little comedy back from the late 80s. It's about two recently deceased spirits who get stuck in their old house. And there's a scene in the movie where they're standing in the attic and they're in front of a brick wall, right? And they had no idea how to get to the other side. So on a nearby table, they found the handbook for the recently deceased, and it said, in case of emergency, draw a door. Ooh, there goes the door. Okay. Look at that, we have a door. Draw a door. And it opened up to a new world, right? So I made me think, can we draw a door in our wall of rules that we create for ourselves? And I say, yes, we can. It starts with acknowledging that we have invisible rules. So I'm not talking about the rules of law or ethics. I'm talking about that little umpire in our head that makes sure that we're coloring inside the lines and following the rules. Our rules, our way it is, limit our choices. Of course, our way it is, my way it is just one possible way it is. Remember, the way it is for me may not be the way it is for you, or the person next to you, or the person next to them. So maybe there is no one way it is. Maybe there are no rules at all. But by acknowledging that we're stopped by our rules, right, that our invisible rules get in our way, then we can work to find them, and then we can draw a door. Think about moments in life where you feel trapped, frustrated, annoyed. You might hear yourself saying things like, I don't know why I can't figure this out. Or, I just need to figure this out. Or, why can't I make this work? Or even, why is life so hard? That's the sign that you're probably in the grip of some invisible rule. Now, it's easier most of the time to see evidence of other people's rules, right? When salespeople struggle to make sales, people tell them, you gotta close, you gotta ask for the sale. But if that person has a rule that says don't ask people for money, closing and asking for the sale becomes nearly impossible. Remember back in school, they used to make us sell like candy bars and wrapping paper or magazines. Maybe their parents said to them they couldn't participate because we don't want to bother anybody with that. And voila, a rule is born. So to see signs of your own rules, it really helps to talk to people. And you can talk to me, right? I guarantee people in your life can see your rules. Now, the problem is they want to give you advice, and advice makes no difference. But behind that advice is probably a rule that needs to be challenged or broken. And that's your chance to draw a door. So it's like we believe there are rules to how life works, that what we need. And we're so sure that our rules are absolutely true, we have no way of doing anything else. Of course, if the rules are true, how come other people don't struggle with the same rules? How come they don't get stuck? Well, they're not limited by the same rules we are. They have their own problems, right? When we can identify our limiting rules, we can ask the question, what if that rule isn't true? Or more importantly, what if that rule doesn't apply to me? And that's drawing a door. Drawing a door is identifying the rules that constrain us. Drawing a door is asking, what else is possible? And then creating a new way of thinking and a new pathway to attain our dreams. And then it's time to step through and take a new action. Now, I know it can take a lot of courage to step through that door, particularly when we're so trained to go in one direction, now we want to go in a different direction. But that can make all the difference. I broke through some of my rules this year. I've had a pretty amazing year. I got married to a beautiful, fashionable, significantly younger man, 24 years younger than me. Now, if you saw us together, thank you. Thank you. Pretty great, right? If you saw us together, you might think this relationship does not make sense. You might have a rule that says if that young, hot guy is interested in me, then I must be rich or powerful or really good in bed. I'm not, and sadly, I'm not. And our relationship works. I also started a new coaching business this year. Now, what's funny is I've been working on this, thinking about it, starting, stopping, for the last 13 years. 13 years wanting to achieve something. But I had rules blocking my way that I couldn't see. And it took me a long time to challenge my rules to actually have something that's really important to me, that I've been working towards. So where are you stuck? Where are you struggling in life, at work, in relationships? Where are you following some invisible rule that I would bet you didn't create and you didn't agree to, and it's limiting your freedom and self-expression? That's where it's time for you to draw a door. Thank you.